I'm here at MEF19 with Pascal Menezes. He's CTO of MEF, and he's just coming off his keynote presentation this morning. Welcome, Pascal.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Sterling. Yeah, it was quite an interesting experience to get up on their big stage there, talking to such a great one of our members and delegates.
So you talked about the interesting thing about your presentation is it was very future looking. So you had 2020 vision for MEF. Can you just quickly recap what are the main points of the 2020 vision?
Yeah, sure. I mean, over the last 4 years, we've been doing so much work around our MEF 3.0 framework. What I really recapped is basically how is all of that now being applied. So the first use case is, high-speed underlays, not the internet, high-speed underlays connecting all our service providers' networks together using automation, so everything's instant on demand, like a cloud-like experience, with our SD-WAN overlays, and then added to the SD-WAN, which is a virtualized layer, all these virtualized services like security, another large revenue stream, and other kinds of digital services in the future. So that's one. The second one was edge. What's happening with edge? How our providers can make money in edge, why edge is coming in, what's the reason for edge, how do we work with edge? The third one is 5G, hot area, how is MEF working with 5G? And the fourth one is the cloud, partnering with the clouds. What's the pain points of the cloud providers? What's a very good other story with the service providers and cloud providers? So those are the four main areas I talked about.
Okay, perfect. So we could spend probably an hour in each of them. Why don't we drill into just one, which is, you talked about edge. We know it's important to operators. It comes up in every survey, every event. What is the relevance of MEF for the edge? What are you going to bring to making all this stuff happen?
Yeah, a good question. So at the end of the day, edge means a lot of things. There's edge at the enterprise, edge at the network edge or the service provider, and there'll be probably other types of edge. But at the end of the day, edge is about low latency applications. These low latency applications need very, very low latencies, and sometimes at the customer edge, even 1 millisecond, and network edge maybe 15 milliseconds, and the cloud edges, region edges, maybe 50 milliseconds. So what's the relevance is that the cloud guys and all that ecosystem cloud, I'm not just talking Amazon, Azure, or Microsoft, I'm talking hundreds of clouds, of SaaS clouds of all types, security clouds. They will all want to be able to integrate into these edges that are owned by the service providers, POPs, central offices, base stations of 5G, so on. How do they connect into that? It's an ecosystem connection. Now literally the cloud guy bits will go from regional levels of maybe 100 POPs today they have in their whole footprint to thousands, 10,000s of POPs that are co-located or located inside the service provider edge. So now how do they connect to that? Well, we're saying connect with carrier Ethernet and our orchestrated carrier Ethernet, Sonata, which they join the federation of all the providers connecting together with that automation API, Sonata. And from there, they can do many, many things, including provisioning, pre-ordering, ordering. They can do settlement, money settlement, billing settlement, but then they can also get, to see how well the circuits are running for them. They can change the bandwidth on demand where suddenly the cloud on the region needs more bandwidth of the edge or vice versa. They can be all done without having to, all talking to machine, not having people involved. They can do service activation testing. They can do service OEM, getting how well the circuits are running. There are many use cases on our APIs where if they join the federation of all the other service providers and Sonata and that underlay automation, it becomes a huge, huge benefit of all fully automated from cloud to service provider to eventually the enterprise, all part of that ecosystem. So that's one use case of the edge.
Okay, so you've obviously the heritage of MEF, Ethernet, you've done a tremendous amount of work over the years in Ethernet and a lot of work over the past couple of years with Sonata. Would you say that all of the work that's needed to make this edge viable for MEF has been done, or is there still work to be done?
It's done, it's being doing operator to operator. All we're doing is say, hey, cloud providers, OT providers, implement the APIs, you're using carrier Ethernet, and you're part of that ecosystem. So now we have this huge federation of all these providers interconnected together in the data plane side. Now they have the management control plane, talking to each other with APIs. Now the cloud guys get in, it makes a frictionless model all automated.
So maybe not a technical question, but how do you engage the cloud guys? The work is done, how do you get the cloud guys
well,
to get on board?
I think the cloud guys are going to be doing partnerships with all the service providers for the edges. So part of that partnership is, hey, how do we automate that facility, optimize it so it's all manual today, placing work orders, going on portals. It's all machine to machine, right? So that's the key goal. It's optimizes. Plus, all of these cloud guys and the service providers are going to, ask if they want large amount of bandwidth, they're going to want, cheaper pricing. So all of that means margins keep dropping when the demand goes up, and I talked about that. And in order to basically keep the margins in line, you're going to have to use automation. You can't have people involved here, machine-to-machine automation. So this is very important. So that's one big aspect. The other big aspect of the cloud is the SD-WAN side. So if you look at the edge, the edge, every edge of the network edge is going to have to face enterprises in some way. So there we're talking about SD-WAN, which we've just announced, all the services certification will be very predominant. And here we're talking about SD-WAN using all kinds of underlays, not just carry Ethernet. You could use internet, broadband, 5G, MPLS, carry Ethernet even. And that SD-WAN at the edges from the network edge will play a critical role, because then now they can access all kinds of access technologies, give performance guarantees. Security is very important for SD-WAN. We're leading that project. That'll apply there. And then the overlays on that access technology of underlays of Ethernet and broadband internet and SD-WAN on top plays very much as our underlay story. And then also the cloud guys will have bits on all those edges, thousands and thousands of edges, and then multiply that by 100 operators. That's a lot of edges for the cloud. And they'll run their own overlays, going back to the regional clouds. That makes sense.
All right, yeah.
So all our work we're doing applies now to an edge story. We're not talking about building an edge. We're not talking about trying to automate the edge itself, because Etsy is doing some of that.
True.
But we're seeing the application of how do we take all our work together and apply it to an edge use case is kind of the key point. That's our entry into the edge.
All right, yeah, one last question, just brief though. So what would you say is the unique role, because you mentioned lots of standards groups out there, what would you say is the unique role that MEF capability is bringing in that other standards bodies aren't able to address?
We actually have real services, meaning carry Ethernet, it's an $80 billion market. That service means that everybody can federate around that, automate around that, and make money off that. And now we're adding SD-WAN, which is another $6 billion market projected, make money off that service. But the big one is security. It's over a $100 billion market, and we're applying security to SD-WAN, because that's the natural bridge. Security, SD-WAN are going together. And every small business to enterprise, consumer, even large enterprises have to be protected. Cybercrime is massively on the rise, and that's $100+ billion extra revenue to our members that will add on to this whole automation scheme in the edge.
All right, so a lot going on, a lot still to come. Look forward to catching up with you next year at MEF 20.
Yeah.
All right,
so,
thank you, Pascal.
Thanks, Sterling.